Hi, I'm Jennifer Janish, owner of Adored Salon and Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair Extensions. I'm obsessed with curly hair. I cut it, style it, and extend it, and this podcast is all about my curly girl obsessions that stretch far beyond just curly hair. Hey there, it's me, Jennifer, from the Curly Girls Obsessions, which you are either watching now or listening to. Jennifer, the salon owner, Adored Salon, Jennifer behind the chair, the hairstylist, Jennifer, the brand and product creator, Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair Extensions, and Jennifer, the educator. I have a lot of topics that I talk about on here, and it has spanned from personal growth, hairstylist, hair extension artist, mom, friend, you name it, all the things. Today, what we're going to focus in on is the numbers behind hair extensions. And sorry, I feel like I got something in my eye. Never a good thing when you wear eyelash extensions. Let's get through it. Anywho, so just a background on this because it's like just to say jumping straight into the numbers of hair extensions, I'm going to give you the background on why we're talking about this today. So recently, was 3 months ago, I started a Facebook ads campaign, and it was to promote selling the education for the Curl Tour, which then in turn would also help promote selling the hair extension line. And of course, getting clients in the door here because as people see you as the expert in your field, more of them want to come to you for your expertise, right? So it kind of was like a 360 win all the way around in my eyes. And when I sat down with him, he said to me, okay, what's your lead magnet? And I'm like, a lead magnet is something that brings in potential clients to your ad or to your funnel. If you don't have familiar with what a funnel is, it's a marketing tactic that, like, if you've ever clicked on something and it's like, here, download, comment, PDF, and I'm going to send you my free guide for X, Y, or Z, and you comment, and into your DMs comes another message saying, thanks for commenting. Please give me your email address and I'll get that free PDF right over to you. And the next thing you know, yes, the PDF is in your email box. And so is a ton of other emails from this company enticing you to purchase their product or to explain to you why their thing or whatever is the best of the best that's out there. And it's going to get you the transformation that you want from A to Z, right? Like all the things. So I'm like, okay, well, probably our contract, the Adored Salon hair extension contract, if you're unaware, is the most downloaded hair extension contract on Google to date. I know that because one of the stylists here, Alyssa, was taking a business class at college and she had to do something, some kind of research on Google and or maybe it had to do with contracts. I cannot remember, but bottom line is she found out through her class that our hair extension contract was the most downloaded on Google. And it probably is the most downloaded on Google because not many salons share that information. I remember when I first started doing hair extensions, I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get this contract? How are we going to get this like in our, logo and all the things, get the verbiage right? Because as a hairstylist, you're not really trained on PDFs and all of those things, right? So you're like, give it to me and I want it easy. So let me download their contract and make the necessary changes. So our hard work paid off for everybody else because they got to download it and change it to their needs. Great, amazing. It also got our name out there. So that was a win-win. And I remember being a little bit nervous about sharing that in the beginning. And then I'm like, what do I have to lose? Like, this is great knowledge for every hairstylist, hair extension artist out there. And I hope that they can gain from it. Fast forward to the Facebook ad. So we use the contract as the lead magnet, and we get a lot of people asking to download the contract. Here's how it gets really interesting. So at the same time, I was going through an online course on funnel marketing through Boss Babe. You guys may have heard of them. If not, search them up on Instagram. They're a really cool company. So it was called Freedom Fast Track. And through the education and one breakout session, we're discussing the fact that this contract is what the lead magnet is. And the person in the breakout room was with me was like, the thing about downloading a contract is they're just downloading the contract. Like, if I was a hairstylist wanting to do hair extensions, I would want to understand the numbers behind it. What am I going to make doing hair extensions? Why does this class sound like a great idea? Why is this class worth my time and money, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, I do know this. And I had sat down probably 6 months prior, and I did the math of what a hair extension client could bring in on an annual basis for a hairstylist if they were doing all the things correctly. And I would say that those numbers are based on the lower end. Um, and so I was like, okay, now I've got to get this into a PDF form. The thing hairstylists freak out about, or at least me, because I'm like, that just becomes hard. And I went straight to Google or straight to Canva, and I found a template that I liked. I have so many photos in my phone, and I will say a lot of them also happen to be of me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take the most eye-catching photo to use as the head of this lead magnet, and I'm going to go to town, right? So it took me a good 6 hours to complete that whole PDF on these numbers, how you can use hair extensions as leverage, the mindset of 100 pennies versus 4 quarters. What is that, right? So we all know it takes 100 pennies to make $1, and it also takes 4 quarters to make $1. Do you want to be the hairstylist that works like 100 pennies, 100 haircuts to get to $1,000, or do you want to use 4 quarters, right? I said $1,000 because, like, obviously a haircut's not going to be a penny, but let's go back to the dollar. Correction: 100 haircuts for $1 or 4 haircuts for $1. You get the point, right? Like, do you want to work 100 pennies hard, or do you want to work 4 quarters hard? Do you want to have a service that is elevated and that you can charge more for? You can do it in less amount of time and make more money. Kind of like a no-brainer, right? And so the PDF goes through this, and then it really breaks the numbers down by how many hours a week do you want to work? How many days a week do you want to work? How many clients do you want to see? And I break this down into a format in which it's very easily understood. It also breaks it down to the point of if you see your clients every 6 weeks or if you see your clients every 8 weeks. And then, as if breaking all that down wasn't enough, I put it in a really nice grid. So it's so easy to consume. And when we switched over to the numbers, all of a sudden the ads started, I'm not going to say tanking. The ads started having less downloads, right? And it was because to download a generic contract didn't mean that you were, non-committal or anything, but the people who actually wanted to see the numbers portion were a little bit more invested. Funny thing here. I have taken a lot of notes to do today's podcast, so if you see me looking down, it's not that I'm distracted. I just got a lot to cover and a lot to talk about, and it happens to be on a piece of paper in front of me. So, also, my takeaway on why the numbers become really hard for a lot of people. And, you know, like, let me just frame this from the standpoint like, if I started over in the hair industry, knowing what I know today, what would I do differently? I think that that's going to phrase this really, really well because you're probably sitting there wondering, just like I was, prior to a lot of reflection, well, why wouldn't more people click on the numbers? Why did more people click on the educational portion, the contract, or the easy win, the contract, and not the numbers? So, when I went to hair school, if you guys have watched this, you know I was super young. I just turned 16, literally turned 16 the week before I started hair school. And at that time, and I would still say, even to today, there is like this stigma around being a hairstylist. Like, oh, you're just going to be a hairstylist, or oh, people do hair because that's what they're passionate about. It's really not a career. And people also think that you like to do your friends and family for free at like the 4th of July barbecue. Um, no, this is a career path. This is something that is very desired. The majority of the people in the world have hair that needs to be serviced, right? Some choose to do it in their house, but I would say the majority of people actually like going into a hair salon and getting their hair done. That makes you a valuable asset to someone. And because of this, the hair industry has experienced emotional discounting, shame for actually charging your prices. And it is this weird thing. Like maybe it's because there's more women in this industry than there is more men. Women tend to be a little bit more nurturing and caring and want to do good out of the goodness of their heart. Whereas, like, it's expected that when men have a career, they're in it to make money and provide for their family. This stigma of women not doing so has carried down within the generations, and it's created kind of like a negative feeling in hairdressers, kind of like this ick, right? And we're also going to get to another story of ick with making money in this profession. But I'll never forget when I was in hair school and my hair teacher said to me, "You don't do this career because you want to make money. You're going to do this career because you love to make other people happy." Um, okay, but I liked nice things. I wanted to enjoy the finer things in life. I was like, that's not me. And she's like, so if you make more than $250 a week, you'll be lucky. Uh, Absolutely not. Right? Like $250 a week. Granted, I was 16 then. This is a long time ago, 35 years ago. That was like uh, uh, $250 then even was not a lot of money. And I was like, well, shit, that's not gonna buy my health insurance. That's not gonna help me go to the dentist. That's not gonna help me buy the clothes that I would like or buy the house someday that I would like to have. That is like nothing. How could she say this to us? I was pretty freaking mortified when she said this to us because I was just like, how does the teacher speak to the students that way? Like, is that really giving us motivation to get through this course because there's something good on the other side? Or is the other side really like what she's talking about? And it's really not going to be that great. I was like, fuck her. No way. I'm not in it for this. I'm going to show her. Like, and now the challenge has begun, right? So I get out of hair school. I fly through hair school. I get out of hair school before I'm finished with my senior year. I actually finished hair school before the second semester of my senior year. My family was very work ethic, work driven. Like we did the work, right? And you knew that you needed to go to work in order to make money and pay your bills. Like, and nobody was coming to save you if you didn't. So I remember getting out of hair school and my mom calling me in sick to school 2 days a week so that I could go to work full time. I was 17 years old. So I went to school 3 days a week, and I only had 2 classes by this point, gym and home ec, and I was honestly like, "What am I gonna do with home ec?" Because I hate sewing and I hate cooking. Little did I know I'd be sewing hair in people's heads for a living later, fast forward. And so she called me in sick. I went to work. I loved it. I and it was like that statement that my hair school teacher said to me was always in the back of my head. And I'll never forget, like in the beginning, okay, you're going to beat 250 take home pay. I don't think like I ever, and now we're going back way back, right? I don't think that my lowest paycheck ever then was less than $350 because I was just like, you are a straight up loser if that's what you get because Miss Deb said this and I can't stand her, right? I just, that philosophy just blew my mind. So then I started realizing like that was more so the mentality of a lot of the people around me within the hair world. It was shameful to want to charge a higher price. Your clients were your friends. And I'm not saying that your clients can't be your friends because a lot of my clients are my friends, but there's also like this boundary where they know that they're also paying for a service with me that I am providing that they love. I mean, it just is. And just just getting rid of that ick feeling, or I don't even know if it's like getting rid of it. It's just this strange vibe that exists within the hair industry. And I do feel like the younger generation has gotten way better with it than when I was the younger generation starting out because the belief is turning it more into of basically like after COVID, like you were essential, right? So that did make it easier for this younger generation of stylists to believe that. And there was two really key points in my life where I also realized that this mentality was kind of fucked up. And it was when I was 20 and my parents kicked me out of my family home. And that's a whole nother podcast, and it's not like as if it was even bad. They're just we had a small house. There was a lot of us in there, one bathroom, and my family was like, "You're making money. You can do this on your own." Best gift that they could have ever given to me, to be totally honest, because that forced me to level up like nobody's business. I learned like no more emotional discounting, no more thinking like that services should be no feeling guilty for charging for my services. Let's just put it that way. And then the next point in time was when I was about 34 years old and I had 4 kids and a larger than life mortgage. I was part of that age group, generational, where we went through the mortgage spike and then the drop. the crash, the market crash. And you're like, okay, how in the hell am I recovering from this? Because I have 4 mouths to feed. I'm not losing my house, and we need to pay these bills. This career needs to become really, really serious. And so I remember when I was 20 and I was kicked out, and what were my responsibilities then? It was my car. I had a brand new Camaro Z28 convertible. Love of my, I loved that thing. I had to pay for my health insurance, and I needed clothes. I had to pay my rent, and I wanted to live in a nice apartment building with parking inside because I'm getting home at 10:30 or 11:30 at night with the way my hours are for my job. I need food, and I need money to save. And I need nice clothes because I like nice clothes. And as a hairstylist, you got to look good if you're providing service, right? Like there's a reason why people come to you, and it's not because your hair is in a bun every day and you're in like pajama pants and a t-shirt. No, you got to look the part too, right? So there was a lot of motivation to make money. I had to make money because my parents also could not afford to bail me out if I didn't make money. So fast forward 34 years, when I'm 34, like I had those mouths to feed, I had that mortgage to pay. There was no freaking way I was defaulting on that. And obviously I was married, my husband had a great job, but things were hard. Like when you have 4 children, or when you have children, they come first. First and foremost, I remember I don't think we took a vacation for 5 years after my last baby was born. She was born in 2009. I think the crash was 2007 or 2008. We bought our house early 2007. So, like, you could see how this went. And it forced me to level up my career. And I remember I started out doing curly, like that was when I went and got certified in curly hair. And that was like a whirlwind within itself. I had people like, it was just, I was packed with clients for curly haircuts and styles and deep conditioning treatments. And then I loved the paycheck when I worked 3 days a week. And that's what then forced me to go learn hair extensions because I wanted to be working 3 days a week in the salon making bank, right? And you're like 3 days a week. Well, let me tell you, when you're a hairstylist and you need to build a clientele, you're not just working behind the chair. So I would work behind the chair at least 3 days a week, and I would work on my business at least 1 day a week. And this was pre social media. So, what looked like me working on my business then was me creating my own website, me creating pamphlets and flyers that I physically took to med spas, laser hair removal places. Um, Gosh, even like high-end dentistry, because I was like, who's this person that wants these hair extensions? And why did I go out of my way so much? Because I understood that with hair extensions, I could triple the amount that I was making per hour. So, 100 pennies, 4 quarters, right? Now you're starting to see the comparison and how this became important. And yes, I could triple the amount of money I was making per hour as a curly hair specialist. So, all of a sudden, already my prices were elevated to begin with. And if you're a hairstylist that is doing only straight haircuts, color, highlights, and styling, you're like the ability to 4, 5, 6 times your income is 100% there with doing hair extensions. You have to remember that hair extensions is like the plastic surgeon of hair, right? You are transforming their hair on their head. just like kind of like a plastic surgeon transforming any area of the body. So when you think about that, like with hair extension, definitely no emotional discounting because you are working your ass off to try and get these clients, and it takes work on the front end, right? But the payout is so much greater. And also, like the scariness of doing the work. So I feel like a lot of the times people want things to fall in their laps and they're not willing to put themselves out there for fear of failure or disappointment. When I was 20 and when I was 34, like it didn't fucking matter if I failed. I had to figure it out, get back up, brush my chin off, dust off my knees, and figure out how the heck I was going to make this money. So I was willing to try anything. And I gotta say, I feel like that goes back to my first job and as a hairstylist and my first boss. She would always say, like, well, you never know if you don't ask. And honest to God, it's totally true. Like, you don't know what someone's going to say if you don't ask, right? And if you ask and they say no, oh well, okay, move on to the next one. That's that is literally how I approached taking out the flyers and doing all those things before social media. And on social media, I will create lives and talk about things. Yes, could people comment in the comments about this, that, or the other? Of course they can, but there's also a thing called delete and block. Like if you don't like what they have to say, just remove it. That's the easy part of social media. Back when you had to do it face to face, you had to stay composed and keep yourself in line with what you were doing, even when they said no, even when they thought you were crazy. Because back then, hair extensions really were not nearly as mainstream as they are today. Okay, so circling back to this numbers PDF, all of a sudden the Facebook ads start dropping. And he's still targeting hairstylists, salon owners, spa owners. I forget like what the lineup is. And he's kind of getting nervous because he's like, oh my gosh, your cost per lead went from $4, the contract download, to $11 per lead. Something to know about this. Okay, even though that happened, even though there was that transition, the people that are actually commenting numbers are more so the people that are going to be more invested in what it is that I have to say, right? So naturally, something as easy as downloading a contract versus wanting to get into the nitty gritty of how to make money in an industry that has always shamed them to say, right? And you may be watching this and saying, I don't see that. I don't see that. But it's actually a reality. And it is disturbing for all the reasons I told you before. And even now to this day, on TikTok, there is this trend going around, if we could call it a trend, where it's saying like any class that sells a hairstylist on making 100K or more a year is just ick. It's cringy. It's this. And you know what I gotta say about that shit is like the people that are saying that it's cringy are the people who aren't willing to do the work to get there. Because if the class is promising it and you do everything that you've been taught, you're going to get there. Because I know they're not cringing on the fact that 100K is as if they feel it's nothing, because the average hairstylist in America is making like, I think it's $32,000 a year. It and actually that's high. I think that that's the average household or something like that. I feel like the average hairstylist, and if I wasn't recording on my phone, I'd actually Google this in front of you, makes in the 20Ks average. How many hairstylists are out there? feel like the number's like 700 some odd thousand, and the average is 20. Okay, so if that's the average, right? That's the freaking middle point of the line, right? So like here's the average is 20K. 100K, let me tell you, that's going to be the top 5%, right? So when they say that they're cringed out by this, it's not because the class can't deliver the results. It's because the person who's taking the class doesn't either follow through and finish the class or follow through with the directions on how to build that momentum in their career in order to actually make it. Because let me tell you, when I was in my 20s and I had that apartment, I moved into that apartment making $27,000 a year. I was in the hair industry for 3 years at that point, and when I moved out of that apartment, I was making 100,000 a year back then. It was hustle, grit, and damn, I mean, I worked a lot of hours and I did a lot of hair behind the chair because I didn't do hair extensions then. They weren't a thing. Like I did haircuts, color, waxing, um, foiling, deep conditioning treatments. I swear that that's how I built my clientele, was on deep conditioning treatments. And I mastered the art of add-on services. But then when I was 34, I needed to master the art of an elevated service that charged more because I was sick of being the 100 penny hairstylist and wanted to go to the four quarters. I knew at the age that I was that I couldn't churn and burn like I did when I was in my 20s. I knew my time frame was smaller and I needed a bigger return. So I couldn't be exhausted also by the end of the day. Hence moving into all of this, right? So still thinking about these Facebook ads and the cost per lead and just the industry itself. Like I really did have to sit back and reflect on all of these things of why the stylist wouldn't comment numbers immediately when they saw that I'm telling them I'm going to break it down. Okay, well, you got this whole TikTok fad going on over here, and you've got all these hairstylists that became educators during COVID and said that they were going to deliver big results. And then you got to their class and you were one of 100 trying to watch them do a service that they already knew how to do. Like getting that exact toner formulation or the how they're doing the lightener, how they're painting it on really wasn't going to elevate that stylist to the point of tripling their income. They're just learning another lightening service, right? So they may have feel burned in that situation. Or let's even take hair extensions. They may have paid out the ass to go to a hair extension conference like I did. I did fly my whole team to California for us to learn hand tied hair extensions in a 3 day event. It was very expensive. There was also 149 other hairstylists learning at this event. And we really only focused in on the hair extensions for 2 to 3 hours of putting them in with, we had one educator who also was participating in the class and one educator to 12 stylists, right? So 150 people, one educator for every 12 stylists. And our working space was the folding chair that we got to sit on in this massive banquet room, right? So we didn't really even have a working space. It was a nightmare. But the class focused in on a lot of mind shift, which I now know today too to be true, very important when it comes to hair extensions for all the reasons that I just explained about the money scenario and the TikTok fad and this and that and the other. But the other key here is that class really didn't give us the tools to deliver the perfect hair extension install right away, right? But you learn that those things come from reps and doing, reps and doing. And so when we go back to commenting the numbers to find out the nitty gritty of what you actually need to do, a lot of people are just throwing their hands up in the air, or they're like, I'm just so sick of trying to figure out how to make the money in this industry to deliver the type of lifestyle that I want so that I'm not in massive credit card debt and that I have finer things. And maybe they think too that actually the numbers are inflated or something. And I can tell you that they are not inflated. They are really interesting when you get into it. And ah, gosh, I just said so much. And now I'm like having like a mind blank. That's really awesome when you're on camera. Maybe I just needed I needed that drink of water, right? So when commenting numbers and learning what it actually takes with your hair extension business to create a clientele, I swear that was all I ever wanted to know when I started. Like, how many clients do I actually need to make X? How many clients do I actually need? How many days a week do I need to work? How much do I need to perfect this so that I know that I'm making money and a return on my investment in an hour? Like, what does that look like? And that's what the numbers PDF actually does. So, the moral of this story is that if you want to elevate your career and you want to actually make money in this industry and not be broke, you have got to do the work. You have to not be afraid to understand what the numbers actually mean. And that's the biggest part. I saw this poll in one of the groups that I'm on in Instagram, and it was like, and it was through another hair extension line, and it's like to their stylist. What is it that you want to know? Educational skills and tips, business, or styling techniques? The most was educational skills, right? Business was next, and it was like educational skills, business, styling techniques. So it was very like, while you need to know the skill, the creative part, you need to use the other side of your brain to understand the business part in order to make the money. And that's where this business falls short because we're all in the creative mindset. But when it comes to the technical side, people start to freak out. People don't like to put a number in front of their face and say that this is their target and this is what they have to get to. I can tell you, as a salon owner, every single month we do meetings about the stylist goals. And I remember like when we first started doing this and they were new, they would undershoot their goals. And I understand because like you don't want to be a constant disappointment to yourself. So then when I started seeing that trend, I'm like, okay, here's where we're going to take it. We're going to make your goals be what you actually have to make to support yourself. That's the baseline. Your next goal for the month is going to be what would be nice. And then we're going to have that euphoric goal, right? Like if I hit this goal, heaven and earth's going to it's just going to be amazing. I'm going to have all that I need to have as far as being financially free, right? Oh my gosh. And all of those, like I could see it in my head and I would be like, give yourself more credit, amp these goals up. You can do this. Like I'm giving you the tools. I'm teaching you the skills. I'm teaching you these services that are so elevated. And damn, if I would have had them at your age, woo, it would have been amazing, right? So lo and behold, here we are, 5 years out of COVID, and this group is crushing it. And I say 5 years out of COVID because that's when the salon rebuilt and went back to hiring new stylists. And I took stylists right out of school and hired and trained them in the ways that I knew made me money and could make them money, right? And could make them an amazing living. I told them, like, I'm going to teach you the skills. I'm going to teach you the skills on how to be a great hairstylist with a niche technique. And I'm also going to help guide you through how to make money, how to not run away from the desk, how to not be afraid of that total, how to do your appointment from start to finish, because we are, whether you like it or not, from the minute the client has any interaction with us, be it on social media, the website that your salon has or your suite, or if you were to answer the phone call or text, whatever, that first interaction is the start of a sales call. It is about you, and that is who you are selling. At the end of the day, the client has to know, like, and trust you before they're going to spend money with you. Odds are they've looked you up online. Odds are they've searched your name in Google. They look up what comes up. They go to the website for the salon. They're reading your bio. They're majority. They're looking at your social media. So all of it needs to be above the bar. All of it needs to be a good representation of what you have to offer in order to make this happen. And so then we just had last week, one of the stylists came to me and she was like, "Oh my God, I can't even believe it. I had my first month over 10K." And I was so excited for her. She really did kill it. And I'm like, in my mind, all I could think of was baseline would be nice. She hit euphoric, right? Like baseline would be nice. She hit euphoric. And they all have. They all have. And it is just, it's so amazing to watch. But they also wouldn't know it if they didn't track it. And they tell me that all the time. Watching those numbers every month, sometimes are they disappointed? Yeah, sometimes you need to feel the burn to be better. Sometimes are they like, holy hell, this was amazing. Yes, more than they aren't. And I do believe it's because they understand the numbers. They know what they need to do. They know where their baseline is, the midpoint and euphoric. And it's the same with this. Like, who goes into a career not knowing what they're going to make? Uh, who? I can't think of anybody who's paying $200,000 for college these days wouldn't want to know what they're going to be expected to make as their first job out of school, right? Even if you are going to work at a fast food place, you don't sit through an interview and then not ask what they're going to pay you. Because if they're going to pay you 50 cents an hour, you're not going to go. It's the same with hair. Like, you need to figure that out. And that's why this numbers PDF is so imperative. But it's also why so many hairstylists are straying away from it because they're scared. They're scared of elevating their career. They're afraid of what the person's going to think that sits next to them. They're afraid of what, you know, what does life look like when you're not making the average salary? What does life look like when I'm not scared and upset and don't like to get my mail every day? Like, if you live in your own personal hell, you can't see what heaven actually is. Like, sometimes you can't even see your way out. But the first step is investing in yourself, commenting numbers on one of my posts so you get that PDF, and then taking the class, and then following through with their advice on how to start with that. So with the extension line and the curl tour class, that's all part of the numbers, right? We do offer a 3-month mentorship afterwards. It's amazing. The people who go through that are the people who succeed the most because they're being held accountable and they're also being guided on how to build this extension clientele. And now, when I built my extension clientele, it took me over 9 months to get my first paying client. Most people who take the curl tour have people waiting in line to come into their salon to get the extensions once they're done. Because, first of all, 87% of the world has some form of wave to kink in their hair. FYI, if you didn't know that, Google it. It's actually true. 90 like 99% of the world's hair extensions are straight and they're still being installed in wavy to curly hair. It's not a good look, trust me. I've been there, and that's why I created Adored Signature. And so you have this massive pool of people, 87% of the world, that has some form of texture in their hair and hardly any options when it comes to hair extensions, and even less options when it comes to hair extension artists that are able to install them. That's why the majority of my clients who come in here come from other states. They freaking fly in and get their hair done. And then they also spend 5 grand when they get their hair done. Like, if you would have told little old me, Jennifer, in hair school, that that would be a service ticket today, I would have never believed you. Because I was just trying to get past the damn $250 mark and show Miss Deb that I was better than that I competed with that dollar amount to this day, right? Like, I mean, and the best part of that is like the tip on a $5,000 ticket. It's also pretty freaking impressive. And it's just one of those things. That's just part of this business. I'm not shameful to talk about it. You shouldn't be either. And you really need to understand that there are people out there that are searching out this service. Hair extensions is growing by the second. I believe the statistic is it's something like, I think it's like in 2023, it was, I want to say people spent something like $4 billion on the hair extension industry, and that by 2031, it would be up to 7. Like, guys, that's insane growth. And if you're a hairstylist, you might want to get on this train because it's not stopping. It's just getting bigger and better. And if you want to make more money, that's where the money is. And you can say, well, we're in a recession, we're this, we're that, we're this, we're that. Once people have the hair in their head that they want, it makes them more confident, which in turn allows them to reach out, get better jobs, pay more money for the services that you provide. Hello, newsflash. So we'll take that baseline that you have to have that would be nice and euphoric to always being euphoric. That's the top of the line within the hair industry. Being the hair extension surgeon, the plastic surgeon for hair with hair extensions. And I'm here to help you do it. So stop being shameful of the fact that you got into this industry to call it your career and to make money. Everybody works to make money. It's no secret. Start doing the things, start putting one foot in front of the other and follow through. I don't want to hear that people in your area are too cheap for this. That's a line of bullshit too. I did just say that a lot of people fly into Adored Salon to get their hair extensions done. Maybe they're not in your immediate circle, but they will find you if you do the work to be found, and they will search you out and they will come to you. So you can, we're going to share the link below of the numbers PDF. You can click the link, you can enter in your email, and we'll drop the PDF into your inbox, and you could see what these numbers actually look like. Just by seeing them doesn't mean that you've committed to anything, but it's definitely the start of elevating your career. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with a friend. If you don't already follow, please follow or subscribe. It helps the podcast grow, it helps awareness. And I love talking to you all about all these curly girl things. So I'd love to talk to more. See you next time.